I'm Alison Singer with the Autism Science Foundation, and I'm here now with Adam Feinstein, who is the parent of a son with autism and the author of a new book called A History of Autism, Conversations with the Pioneers. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about this book and why you decided to write a book about the history of autism.
Well, I first got into autism 17 years ago when my son Johnny was diagnosed. I then went, I suppose, the intellectual channel by starting up a newsletter called Looking Up, a monthly international newsletter. I also run an AWARES international online conference every year, international online conference for autism criminal, which has about 60 experts, top experts around the world, and 10,000 delegates online. So I got interested in research in a big way, started to investigate the history. I am interested in the history of medicine and history of autism. By then, Dame Stephanie Shirley, Steve Shirley, in the UK, got to know me quite well because she'd set up Autism Cymru and Autism Connect, which I edit. And she came to me one day and said, would you be interested in going around the world researching the evolution of the concepts of autism, how society's attitudes, awareness to the condition has changed, the levels of stigma, the understanding of it amongst professionals, very importantly the pioneering role of parents in setting up associations, which has been extremely important. And the idea was, to put it a bit bluntly, to catch the earliest professionals in the field while I still could. And indeed, I spoke to Leon Eisenberg, Leo Kanner's closest colleague, had a long talk with him and subsequent emails, and of course he's died. I spoke to Sulla Wolf in Scotland, and I spoke to Fred Stone. Both of them have died, so 3 people have died since I started writing the book. So I'm very glad that I started when I did, and they were illuminating, all those 3. Eisenberg, I asked him why, for instance, Kanner, rather bewilderingly to me, spoke about the normal cognitive skills of the original children, 11 children, in his 1943 paper. He talked about affective impairments in that paper, of course, but not cognitive impairments. And Eisenberg said he was wrong. He just made a mistake. Kanner got it wrong. And I spoke to him also about why Kanner took so long to look at organic causes of autism, because 2 of those 11 children in the 43 paper had epilepsy. You might think it might occur to him, he mentions that in the paper, maybe there's some physical organic cause. He doesn't. It took a long time. Took till 1971 when Stella Chess's paper came out about congenital rubella that Kanner actually took seriously, that it might be there might be specific physical causes of autism. And of course Kanner was also the person who coined the term refrigerator mother. People forget that. It was taken over in an appalling way by Bruno Bettelheim, but Kanner was the one who started it, and even in 1960 he was telling Time magazine that parents of autistic children had just had time just enough to defrost to give birth to an autistic child. So 1960 he was still at that persuasion. Only in 1969 when he told the National Society of Autistic Children here in America, became the Autism Society of America, at the first meeting he told them, parents, I acquit you. But it took him till 1960, very kind of him, but it took him to 1969 to relent in a way. He took a long time. Yeah.
Well, we've come a long way since then.
Yes.
How has the approach to autism research changed since Kanner first identified autism in the 40s?
Oh gosh, in hundreds of ways. Of course we have technical advances. We have brain scans. That was just a dream in those days. Even when Baumann and Kemper did their famous 1985 study, and they're both here, of course, at IMFAR. and I interviewed them twice. They had no idea that they would be able to scan these brains, and so obviously advances there have helped. And there's another big change is this collaborations across, not only across the States, for instance, but across institutions across the world, so which have made enormous advances and make me very optimistic for the future that we will have a breakthrough of some sort. I have no idea where. It may be in some completely surprising area, I think, of science that will sidetrack us and bewilder us and amaze us. But yeah.
And you talk in the book about the important role that parent advocacy groups have played in the development of research. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, since I'm in America now, I think we should start there. Although I'm a Brit, of course, the ASA, as it was started up largely in response to Bettelheim's book, The Empty Fortress, and his blaming the parents. They said, we know this isn't true. Of course, Bernard Rimland brought out his book, Infantile Autism, in 1964. But that didn't change the way some professionals thought about autism. They were still giving the parents great guilt nightmares when they had enough on their plate, as I know, without being made to feel guilty for causing some ludicrous idea. So yeah, people like Ruth Sullivan, who became the first president, Bernie Rimland, of course, they set up the ASA, very small at first. 1969 was their first conference. It coincided with the moon landings, so I don't know who was watching what. And certainly that was a major event. And of course, a few years earlier, in my country, the United Kingdom, we had the National Autistic Society, set up by Lorna Wing. Very early professionals came on board. Mike Rutter, Professor Sir Michael Rutter, came on board, and he was involved in the Sybil Elgar School, one of the very first schools for autism, specifically for autism in the UK. And the parents were advocates, they were lobbyists, they were fighters, they were fighting this, the blame culture, which I believe is still exists. Well, I know it still exists in some countries because I've seen it. In France, sadly, anywhere where the psychoanalytical trend remains strong, parents are still being made responsible today, made to feel that they brought the autism on their children by being cold. It's study after study now has suggested otherwise. If you meet parents of autistic children, they're the warmest people you could imagine on the whole. If they're cold, it's because it's the other way around. It's because because the tensions of living with an autistic child makes them shut down to be able to cope with those pressures. So it's the other direction. If you have a look at Spain, parts of Spain, curiously the north, Barcelona, which is one of the most sophisticated parts of Spain, still believes, or some of it, the professionals still believe in the refrigerator mother theory. I think that's because of the proximity to France, the geographical proximity to France. Latin America, Argentina, where psychoanalysts, they say there are more psychoanalysts than human beings in Argentina, and it's very strong there. The Freudian view